What's up YouTube? This is GalacticGod, and I'm coming at you today with a video to talk about the breaking point in Yu-Gi-Oh! Now this is a topic that I saw over on a thread on the Pojo forums, and I just kind of wanted to give my thoughts on the subject. So for those of you guys who don't really know what I'm talking about, basically the breaking point is something that most duelists probably experience. It's that point that you get to where you just cannot take the game any longer. It could be something that Konami does, something that the community does, maybe it's a new product that you just feel is so unbalanced that you just cannot stay in the game any longer and you want to leave it. So, in some of the posts on the forum, a lot of players kind of gave their thoughts on this subject as well, and I want to point out a few that I kind of saw a recurring theme of. The first one being Konami's lack of acknowledgement or interaction with the player base. Oftentimes it feels like Konami is out of step with that of the player base, or basically just ignores them and doesn't care about their opinion whatsoever. And many duelists find this extremely frustrating. Others point to how broken the newer product must be in order to keep duelists buying those current packs. They also bring up how unfair the ban list really is. How certain cards can remain forbidden just so duelists don't flock back to the older decks that those cards could utilize. Meanwhile, cards that should be either limited or forbidden remain untouched just so current product is viable and can be sold. Now for me personally, there's only been two instances where I've kind of hit that breaking point, that glass ceiling that I wanted to bust through and kind of leave the game. And the first one came a long time ago, many years in fact, during the time of Invasion of Chaos. Now this is when I first started to try and take the game a little bit more competitively. I went out and got all the meta cards that I needed to play the game at a much more higher level. And I started going to locals all the time, I started trying to attend as many regionals as I could. And what ultimately ended up happening was that my deck was stolen at one of these events. Now, as you can imagine, I was very heartbroken by this. I was upset with the community and the game in general, and I just wanted to leave. And if it wasn't for my friends at the time that were currently playing who kind of talked me back down away from the edge and convinced me that this was a game that I was very passionate about and that I should try and stick with it and rebuild my deck. They also gave me a ton of their own extra kind of cards to help me kind of rebuild what I had lost so that I didn't have to reinvest a lot of money. And because of that, I decided to stay in the game. But on the flip side of that, even though my friends had saved me from leaving the game at that point, it was almost the reason why I left at a later time. There came a point when a lot of my friends had hit that breaking point, that glass ceiling, and they were all leaving the game. And then I was practically the only one in my circle that was still playing Yu-Gi-Oh! And, you know, when you don't have that interaction with a lot of your friends within the game, it almost seems like, well, why am I still playing this if I'm the only one that's taking it this serious? Why am I still going out and buying all these packs? I have no one really to trade with unless I can make it to a locals or a big event or something like that, and it just seemed almost pointless to me to keep going. And I started not keeping up with the meta, not really buying a lot of the new product, and a lot of my collection just kind of fell to the wayside. Even though I didn't really get rid of it and sell it or anything like that, I just kind of held on to it. And eventually, you know, what ended up happening was a lot of my friends started returning back to the game. And even though they had to rebuild a lot of the cards that they were then missing, I still had quite a bit of them. And there you have it. Those were the only two instances in my life where I ever seriously thought about leaving the game of Yu-Gi-Oh! Now, if you guys would like to read that original Pojo thread, I'm going to have a link to it in the description below. I encourage you to go check it out and see what all your other fellow duelists had to say on the subject. And also, let me know what you guys think about this. Have you ever, yourself, hit that point in Yu-Gi-Oh! Where you thought you were going to crash through that glass ceiling? You managed to make it to that breaking point and you just wanted to leave the game. What ultimately stopped you from doing so? Who talked you back from that ledge? What made you want to stay within the community? Remember, let me know your guys' thoughts in the comments below. And I guess that's it for now. This is GalacticGod, out.